Yo, tell me why Jim Jonesmeister. I'm a boss. Mr. Harlem Legend. Mr. I don't need a marriage certificate. Just got dragged out of a luxury penthouse in cuffs like it was an episode of Law & Order, Dipset Victims Unit. That's right. The streets are screaming. The internet is on fire. And Chrissy Lampkin is at the center of a scandal so wild. It makes their love and hip-hop drama look like Sesame Street. What really went down behind those closed doors? Did Jim finally lose control after dodging a wedding ring for 20 years? Or is Chrissy the one playing puppet master in a game of manipulation and assets? Because sources, and when I say sources, and I mean the nosy neighbors with iPhones and Twitter accounts, claim things went from zero to handcuffs real quick. Glass breaking, furniture flying, and somebody yelling "I made you, Jimmy." All before the cops showed up like they were filming a Netflix docuseries. Was this just a lover's quarrel gone nuclear? Or is there something deeper, darker, and far more twisted going on here? Grab your snacks and silence your morals, because what you're about to hear is messy, shocking, and allegedly 100% true. Let's unpack this scandal, one juicy twist at a time. So how did we even get here? How did we go from Chrissy Lampkin flashing that engagement ring on Love and Hip Hop like she just won the Super Bowl, to her allegedly ducking glass shards in a penthouse while Jim Jones is getting cuffed like he just led a jewelry heist in Soho? Let's rewind this mess, because it didn't start last night. Nah, this is a disaster that's been simmering on low heat for over 20 years. Yep, to decades of chaos, cameras, and commitments that never quite turned into a wedding. Jim and Chrissy's relationship has always been more roller coaster than romance. One minute they're on reality TV, talking about forever. The next minute they're on Instagram unfollowing each other and sending cryptic messages that fans eat up like popcorn. And the most ironic part, every single time people thought they were done for good, they'd pop up acting like everything was sweet. All smiles and fake peace for the cameras. But behind those designer sunglasses and fake red carpet grins, there's been trouble, and lots of it. Sources have been saying for months that things were heating up behind closed doors. Chrissy allegedly has been pressing real hard for Jim to finally tie the knot. And not just for love, oh no, but for something deeper, something colder: legal security. Word on the street is, Chrissy's been talking about protecting her position, making sure that after decades of being the ride or die, she's not left out in the cold if things fall apart. And if you know Jim, you already know that talk like that doesn't sit right with him. Jim Jones has always been paranoid about his money. He might flash diamonds and spend like it's nothing. But when it comes to people, especially the ones closest to him, he keeps his guard tighter than a bank vault. And that, folks, is where things allegedly started unraveling. Imagine the scene: a luxury penthouse in Miami. The kind of place where champagne is colder than the AC, and the views are just as expensive as the furniture. But on this particular night, it wasn't calm. It wasn't romantic, it was chaos. Sources say Chrissy brought up the marriage topic again, not lightly, not playfully, but seriously. As in, "I want papers on that table by next week, serious." And that's when Jim reportedly snapped. Allegedly, what started as a heated back and forth turned into a full-blown screaming match. Jim was yelling about loyalty, about how changed, about how she's always pressing for something. Chrissy allegedly fired back, saying she's wasted her youth, her time, her everything waiting for a man who keeps stringing her along. Eyewitnesses from the hallway claimed they heard loud thuds, something crash, and a woman screaming. But it doesn't stop there. It gets uglier. According to inside sources, Jim got aggressive, allegedly grabbing Chrissy's arm during the argument. She pushed him back, screaming at him to let go. But instead of walking away, Jim reportedly slapped a glass off the nearby table, sending it crashing into a wall. That's when the real panic started. A neighbor, hearing the chaos, reportedly called building security, who then called Miami police. When officers arrived, they were allegedly greeted by a scene straight out of a movie: broken glass, furniture out of place, and two people looking like they had just gone through emotional warfare. Now here's the kicker: Chrissy, despite everything, allegedly told officers she didn't want to press charges, said it was just a fight that got too loud. But law enforcement wasn't playing that game. Not with the mess they walked into. They reportedly told Chrissy that due to the visible damage and eyewitness accounts, they had no choice but to detain Jim. Now here's where Jim made it worse for himself. Sources say when the officers started asking questions, he didn't exactly cooperate. In fact, he allegedly tried to walk away, insisting it was just a loud argument, nothing criminal. But the moment he moved, an officer reportedly stepped in his path and told him he was being detained. And if you've followed Jim Jones for longer than 5 minutes, you already know he's not the type to stay quiet when he feels disrespected. Eyewitnesses said he started raising his voice again at the officers, this time saying things like "y'all doing too much. And this is my house. I can argue in my own house." But it didn't matter. Once the cops decided he was getting arrested, it was game over. They cuffed him right there in front of Chrissy, who, according to sources, was visibly shaken but stayed silent. And as soon as that arrest report hit the internet, social media went into a full meltdown. Twitter, Instagram, gossip, blogs, everybody and their mama had something to say. Memes started flying within minutes. Some people were clowning Jim, saying things like he dodged marriage for 20 years just to end up in cuffs anyway. Others were defending him, accusing the police of escalating a private situation into a public scandal. But the real drama, that came when folks started pulling up receipts. Past videos, old interviews, even clips from Love and Hip Hop, where Jim and Chrissy were fighting on camera, got reposted with captions like "the signs were always there." It wasn't just strangers either. Industry folks, influencers, even ex-cast members started commenting. Everyone had an opinion, and none of it was helpful. Some were saying Chrissy has always been the one carrying the emotional weight in that relationship. Others said Jim was toxic and this moment was a long time coming. And then there were those who just wanted to throw gas on the fire because drama brings clicks, and clicks bring money. Then there's the history. Oh yes, Jim's past is no clean sheet. Once word of the arrest got out, people went digging and what they found only made things worse. Legal troubles, public fights, beef with other rappers, and let's not forget the airport brawl that had him pepper sprayed back in 2012. All of it started resurfacing. Every past mistake, every mugshot, every shady headline got dragged back into the light like receipts at a toxic breakup. And just like that, Jim went from Dipset icon to public enemy #1 again. Because let's face it, in this era, the internet doesn't need proof. It just needs a rumor, a headline, and a few blurry screenshots. And Jim Jones, well, he gave them all of that on a silver platter. Asterisk, asterisk. And just when people thought the chaos had peaked, it got worse. Because while Jim was sitting in a holding cell, trying to figure out how a conversation about marriage turned into a full-blown criminal case, the streets were buzzing with even more scandal. New details started leaking like a busted faucet, and none of them were doing Jim any favors. Apparently, there was surveillance footage from the penthouse hallway showing Jim pacing back and forth like a ticking time bomb, just moments before the argument exploded. Sources close to building security claimed that the clip, though silent, painted a picture of a man already on edge. And to make it worse, some anonymous insider allegedly leaked screenshots of messages between Chrissy and a close friend where she admitted she was scared things might turn violent one day. The message, reportedly sent just weeks before the incident, had her saying something like, "I love him, but he's not the same man anymore. Sometimes I feel like I'm walking on eggshells." That one quote alone sent the internet into a frenzy. Suddenly, this wasn't just a celebrity lover's spat, it was starting to look like something far more dangerous. But that's not where the leak stopped. Oh no. Alleged text messages between Jim and a mystery woman surfaced next. And let's just say, they weren't talking about music. The messages were filled with flirty emojis, late-night meet-up plans, and one particularly damning line from Jim saying, "She don't get me like you do." While no one could confirm if the texts were real or just another piece of internet fiction, the damage was already done. People were now accusing Jim of cheating, manipulating Chrissy, and playing the victim while living a double life. And of course, the blogs ran wild with it. Headlines like "Jim Jones caught creeping before domestic blow-up," and "Chrissy played again," started trending everywhere. Fans were split down the middle, some saying Chrissy should have left him years ago, others claiming she stayed because she was addicted to the lifestyle. But no matter where people stood, one thing was clear: Jim's image was crumbling faster than anyone expected. Even some of his industry friends began distancing themselves. Rappers he used to collaborate with started going radio silent. A few producers even pulled back from planned projects. One well-known producer, speaking anonymously, said, "We just can't be associated with that right now. Too risky, too much heat." And if that wasn't enough, a brand Jim recently partnered with for a sneaker drop quietly deleted all promotion material from their social media pages. No statement, no explanation, just gone. That's the thing about scandal: when it hits, people run for cover fast. And in Jim's case, it wasn't just the public turning their backs, it was the money too. Sponsors started backing out. An upcoming reality spin-off that was supposed to feature Jim and Chrissy was reportedly put on indefinite hold. According to someone on the production team, there's no way we can move forward while he's under investigation. It's too much liability. And just like that, a possible comeback was slipping through his fingers. Meanwhile, Chrissy was nowhere to be seen. No Instagram posts, no tweets, no interviews, just silence, which of course only fueled the speculation. Was she staying quiet to protect him? Or was she planning her exit behind the scenes? Rumors started flying that Chrissy had already left Miami and was back in New York, staying with a close friend while figuring out her next move. Some said she was considering lawyering up. Others claimed she was writing a memoir that would finally expose everything she's endured in that relationship. And while none of it could be confirmed, the fact that she wasn't speaking made it all feel more believable. Because when Chrissy's quiet, you know something serious is happening. Then came the audio leak. A voice memo, allegedly recorded during a phone call between Chrissy and one of her longtime friends, made its way to a gossip blog. The voice, clearly emotional and strained, was said to be Chrissy, venting about how tired she was. "I gave him everything. My youth, my energy, my love, and he gave me chaos." That one clip hit like a bomb. Fans who had spent years rooting for Jim and Chrissy were now turning on Jim completely. The comments were brutal. "She held him down, and this is how he repays her. 20 years and not even a wedding, just drama." The court of public opinion had made its decision. Jim was guilty, not necessarily guilty of assault in the legal sense, but guilty of dragging Chrissy through years of emotional hell, as if the pressure wasn't enough. Legal analysts began weighing in too. Several viral TikToks popped up with self-proclaimed experts breaking down the possible charges Jim could be facing. Some said the property damage alone could lead to a felony. Others speculated that if Chrissy decided to press charges later, the whole case could escalate. And then came the whisper that really got people talking: a possible restraining order. One anonymous law enforcement source claimed that Miami PD was considering pushing for a temporary restraining order regardless of Chrissy's cooperation, simply due to the severity of the scene. If that were true, it would mean Jim couldn't even speak to Chrissy without risking jail time. But the most chilling detail. One insider claimed that Chrissy has secretly kept a diary. Not a metaphorical one, an actual, physical journal with entries going back years. Entries that allegedly document fights, emotional manipulation, financial disputes, and moments where she felt unsafe. The source, who claims to have seen excerpts, said it was heartbreaking and damning all at once. "It's like watching someone slowly lose themselves, page by page," they said. That information alone was enough to push the internet into a full tailspin. Now people weren't just calling for Jim to be cancelled, they were demanding he be blackballed entirely. Some activists even started a petition to get Jim's music pulled from streaming platforms, arguing that artists accused of domestic violence shouldn't be allowed to profit while under investigation. And while the petition didn't immediately take off, it made one thing painfully clear: the tide had turned, and Jim was sinking. But the most brutal reaction, it came from someone fans never expected: Mama Jones. That's right, Jim's own mother, the woman who's always been loud and proud about her baby boy, allegedly posted a cryptic message on her Instagram story. It said, "Sometimes even we can't protect them from themselves." No names were mentioned, but the timing spoke volumes. The blogs jumped on it instantly, calling it the ultimate betrayal. If Mama Jones was washing her hands of the situation, then who did Jim have left? The fans were roasting him, the brands were dropping him, the industry was ghosting him, and now even his own blood seemed to be stepping away. The walls were closing in, and fast, while Jim Jones sat in silence, surrounded by legal paperwork and public backlash. The fallout outside was growing bigger than anyone could have predicted. His lawyers were scrambling, not just to deal with the immediate arrest, but to try and stop the avalanche of consequences crashing down around him. Sources close to the team claimed they were looking into options to suppress evidence, challenge the arrest procedure, and possibly shift the narrative by painting Jim as the victim of a media witch hunt. But the truth was, no legal spin could erase the internet's collective judgment. The headlines had already convicted him. In the court of public opinion, Jim Jones had officially become the face of everything toxic about hip-hop relationships gone wrong. Every think piece, every podcast episode, every gossip panel was dissecting his entire legacy, questioning if he was ever truly the hero he made himself out to be, or just another narcissist who played the game until the game finally played him. And while Jim's team tried to control the flames, Chrissy was making quiet moves of her own. Insiders claimed she was seen meeting with a high-powered attorney known for handling messy celebrity divorces, even though they were never legally married. But that's where it gets tricky. Sources said Chrissy was exploring legal routes to claim financial compensation for the years she invested in Jim's brand. Apparently, there were verbal agreements, co-signed businesses, and shared assets that weren't exactly cleanly separated. She may not have a ring, but Chrissy allegedly had receipts, text messages, emails, and contracts that showed she had every right to a piece of Jim's empire. And let's be clear, this isn't just about hurt feelings or tabloid headlines anymore. We're talking lawsuits, claims of emotional damages, and potential restraining orders that could lock Jim out of his own properties. One source claimed Chrissy even had keys to a studio that Jim forgot she could access, and word was she had been gathering documents before things hit the fan. While all this was unfolding behind closed doors, the media frenzy outside kept boiling. Paparazzi were staked out near Jim's Miami condo. TMZ was reportedly offering thousands for any exclusive video or photos. A former assistant of Jim's even came forward anonymously, sharing their experiences of watching the couple argue violently over business decisions, accusing Jim of being controlling, paranoid, and constantly undermining Chrissy's role in his success. The former assistant described one incident where Jim allegedly screamed at Chrissy in front of staff after she questioned a money transfer. It wasn't just the volume, they said it was the venom in his tone, the kind that stays with you. That story went viral within hours, triggering even more people to come forward with their own encounters. Former collaborators, reality show editors, even hairstylists who worked on set all sharing cryptic stories about how things behind the scenes were way worse than fans ever imagined. And just like that, the narrative shifted from one bad night to a years-long pattern of control and chaos. Meanwhile, Jim's label was getting nervous. Rumors started circulating that executives were holding emergency meetings, debating whether to suspend his upcoming projects. An unreleased single was pulled from streaming platforms before it could drop. And one source even claimed that an entire EP scheduled for release next month had been shelved indefinitely. The financial hit was becoming real. Endorsement deals were gone. Show bookings disappeared. A music festival that had Jim listed as a headliner issued a vague public statement about reviewing all participants in light of recent events, which was basically code for, he's out. For a man who once bragged about being untouchable, Jim was looking very, very vulnerable. And the only thing louder than his silence was the sound of doors closing one after another. What made it all worse was the timing. Just weeks before the incident, Jim was in talks to co-produce a documentary about his career, one that was supposed to highlight his growth, his legacy, and how he survived the industry. That entire project has now reportedly been scrapped. The director, who had been a longtime supporter, allegedly walked away from the project saying, "I can't tell a story of triumph while this man's facing allegations of abuse." And that, right there, is how fast things fall apart. One moment you're writing your legacy, the next you're watching it go up in flames. But through all the fallout, the most pressing question remained. Would Chrissy stay, or was she finally ready to walk away for good? Insiders close to Chrissy say she's conflicted. On one hand, she's exhausted. On the other, she's built a brand around standing by Jim through thick and thin. Walking away now would mean starting over, redefining her identity outside of him, but staying might cost her more than just public respect. It could cost her peace, her mental health, and her future opportunities. Brands are reportedly waiting to see what she does next before deciding whether to continue business deals with her. Some have paused contracts quietly, not out of punishment, but out of uncertainty. Because in this mess, Chrissy's silence is both her shield and her biggest gamble. If she distances herself, she might recover. If she stands by him, she could go down with him. And everyone's watching to see which choice she makes. So now that everything is out in the open, the question is, what happens next? Is this the final chapter in Jim Jones' legacy, or can he somehow claw his way back from the mess he created? Can Chrissy continue to stay silent, or is she gearing up for her own explosive reveal? The streets are watching, the industry is holding its breath, and the internet, well, it's eating this up like a front row ticket to a scandal no one saw coming. But now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Jim Jones is done for good? Should Chrissy finally walk away and reclaim her peace? Or is there still a chance? for redemption. Drop your thoughts in the comments because this drama is far from over. And trust, when the next twist drops and it will, you'll want to be the first to know. So make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a second of the tea. Because, if you think this is wild, wait till you see what's coming next. Stay locked in. This storm isn't over, it's just getting started.